I saw that Grant Cohn rant he had about the 49er quarterbacks. They suck. Where is this quarterback guru, Kyle Shanahan? He's so overrated, it's disgusting. He is the most overrated coach in the National Football League. Completely overrated. Completely overrated. He's got Marcus Mariota is a better quarterback than anything they have under contract with the nine. Trey Lance fumbled the first snap, and he's not in pads. What an absolute disgusting train wreck. You want to hear something else? How about this little nugget for you? Do you know if somehow they had beaten the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC title game, do you know who was starting in the Super Bowl for the Niners versus Mahomes? Do you know who? Phillip Rivers. They had contacted Phillip Rivers, or no, they were going to, according to Kyle Shanahan. According to Kyle Shanahan, who did a show about a day ago or yesterday, they were going to call Phillip Rivers to quarterback the 49ers against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl because the 49ers have dog shit in their quarterback room. Seriously, the Eagles' second-team quarterback could start in San Francisco. Darian goes, Seals, can you tell the Sopranos story before I log off? I'll do it right now for you. So Greg Schiano was the head football coach. He is again now at Rutgers, right? He's a dear friend of mine. He coached at the University of Miami. And James Gandolfini used to do promos for Rutgers football. And I told him I wanted to know James Gandolfini. So what he did was he got him on my radio show when I was in Tampa. And so James Gandolfini came on my show when I was in Tampa. And I go, hey, if you can put Tony Saragusa on, why can't you put me on? And so it all got through. And David Chase, I had a conversation with David Chase. And if they had another year of The Sopranos, I was going to be in an episode, kind of probably just as a stand-in guy. But I had talked to David Chase, the guy who created The Sopranos, so I was going to go on it. Yeah, Gandolfini was a good dude, man. Came on my program. I had a cell phone. Anytime I needed him, he would come on because he always wanted to promote Rutgers football. He loved Rutgers football. So, yeah, one more year they had, and I would have been on The Sopranos. How you doing? All right. What else did I write down here? Hey, did you see Bijan Robinson, man? Holy shit, is this guy a stud? Holy cow. You see that guy doing shake and bake, one-handed cat? Oh, my God, is he going to tear the league up? He's going to be the offensive rookie of the year in the NFL. Woo! Now, that's what I'm talking about. Well, we don't want to have a running back here in Philly. I'd rather have 5 trash cans. Well, 4. I'd rather have 4 trash cans and a good player. Did you see? Hey, did you see Bijan? Man, he was great looking today. Well, you know, if I get Paulie Spitzer Shore, Elliott Spitzer guy telling me how good Jalen is and helmets and shells, why can't I look at Bijan and give him the same Elliott Spitzer, Paulie Shore love? I give Bijan an A+. There you go, Tone. If that was Elliott Spitzer Shore, man, that's an A+ for Bijan in Falcons camp. Man. 4 trash cans and DeAndre Swift. Okay? Going places. Oh, real quick before I get to the Patriots here, the week one opponent you may lose to. If I'm Joe Burrow, yeah, it's Mike Brown there. I'm not practicing ever again until my contract signed. You're welcome. If I were him and his agent, I would never step on a football field ever again until I get my deal done. I'm not doing that. You're lucky it's a calf strain. Okay, he'll be out a couple weeks. You're lucky it's a calf strain, and it's not anything severe in the knee. But if that's me, why would you get on a football field when you know how these owners are, especially zipper wallet Mike Brown? Why would you get on a football field if you're Joe Burrow? What, because you're a good teammate? Screw that. You give me my $270 million, I'll get on the field. Don't treat those owners with any kind of, well, I'm going to go out there and do it for old team spirit, locker room love, all that bullshit you guys think exists. Players in the NFL know how owners are. Nobody begrudges anybody, especially when we're talking about your wallet, because you got to deal with assholes that are owners, and you have to treat them like assholes because they're going to treat you like one. Hence Jim Irsay. Remember that. I wasn't talking to my running back, but I was talking to all the other 31 running backs in the league. What a dope. What a dope. No, not my guy. Of course, not your guy. No, you were directly talking to Jonathan Taylor. How dopey can you be? Right? It's total stupid. Ugh. Not my guy. All right. Hey, for craps and giggles here, what do you think that score week one will be against New England Patriots? What's your score? $38-3. You think you have a defense good enough to stop any team in the NFL right now to 3 points? 30-23. Somebody with some common sense. 30-17. You think you have enough defense to stop a team and only give up 17 points? Your defense ain't ready. Your defense week one is going to surrender 20 or more points. I'm not moving on. 28-17? Yeah, because they have Mac Jones. Okay, well, let's look at who the Patriots are. I really don't know what the expectations are for New England. I don't. But I will say this to you. And that stupid shit about Belichick being on the hot seat is such a lie. It's all of you jealous people who hate the fact that the Patriots kicked your asses. And I don't mean the Eagles, because you got him and you got yourself a gold slipper. You got yourself one versus him and Brady. So kudos to you. But I'm talking about all the other loser football fans who hate the Patriots because you're jealous of what they accomplished for 20 years. Too bad. You can cry, you can bitch, you can accuse, they kicked your freaking ass for 3 decades. End of story. It's the greatest dynasty in the history of the National Football League. History. 104 years. History. It's the greatest dynasty, including the Steeler dynasty, 4-6. Cheaters? Whatever. That's an excuse. Not cheaters. Stupid to think that. You really think it would have mattered if they gave you their entire playbook that you could have stopped Tom Brady? You're out of your mind. You're out of your minds. Who wins more games this year, Falcons or Eagles? Eagles. Eagles. You're back to hating the clicks. I was talking about Bijan Robinson, not the Falcons. So you tied the Falcons and me liking what Bijan looked like today into them winning 12 games? That wasn't even my conversation. Again, that's what people do. They take what I say sometimes and make a story that I never even said. Okay? They just make things up. So let me finish here. Belichick's on no hot seat. It's all the people crying around the league because he kicked your ass for 3 decades. And all you now are moaning, and all now you get a great chance to get a shot back at him. He's the greatest coach in the history of the league. The Patriots do not have him on the hot seat. Bill's going to be able to call his putt, and that's the end of the story. You don't have a coach in your coaching staff, including Jeff Stoutland, that's in Bill Belichick's conversation. It's not close. Accomplishment-wise, coordinator-wise, position coach-wise, Bill is the greatest D coordinator of all time, along with the greatest head coach of all time. And he coached the 2 greatest players in the history of the sport, LT and Brady. I don't know what else to tell you. And he's got more Super Bowl rings than any coach in history. End of story. End of story. You could debate your stupid-ass little crying off-ramp. He did it with Brady. He gets credit for drafting Brady, too. It's all dumb. Stop it. Wipe your tears away. Wipe your tears away. He kicked the shit out of Manning. He kicked the shit out of Roethlisberger. He kicked the shit out of everybody. For 3 decades. Wipe your tears away all you want. This guy gave you an enema every time he played against you. Like you'd have to go see your proctologist when you were done after being in a Patriot game. And that first game of the year, we're going to get a good sample of it. And I'm going to tell you why here. They bring back a great defense and they'll be better. The majority of their draft picks, including this kid, Christian Gonzalez, who was the best corner, 6'2", they're small back there, is going to bring some depth, and he's also going to bring some talent to the secondary. They're already a great unit. That's a great unit that's going to be a test, in my opinion, for the first week of the Eagles. I think it's going to be a test. And then you turn this on. Don't sleep on Ramondre Stevenson. He's better than anything you have on your football team. Better than anything. 1,400 total yards last year, 1,000 yards rushing. This kid had 70 catches. Who's covering him on your team out of the backfield? Jacoby Dean? Lunch is served. You think Jacoby Dean, this kid has a shot this year. He was the best player. This kid Stevenson was the best player on that offense last year in a bad offense. I think he could get 2,000 total yards this year. That's how good that kid is. Who's covering him? Jacoby Dean? They're going to put this kid on Dean. Dean's going to have his shit kicked in week 1. He can't cover him. This guy had 421 yards receiving, too. 1,000 yards rushing. 70 catches. This is what you're hoping for in DeAndre Swift. He's better than Swift. He's a better ball player than Swift. Who covers him? Quan, who covers him? Who? Morrow? Who covers him? Give me a player on your team and your linebacker. I'm crazy. Who covers him? Yale, it's not negative. Who covers him? And I'll go, you're right. Ty goes, Stevenson is not better than Swift. Swift has never had a year like this kid Stevenson in his entire time in Detroit. It's because you never heard of him. Doesn't mean he's not better. Blankenship is going to cover him. Who covers Hunter Henry? Let's see what Henry had last year. He may have been injured. He was a pretty good tight end when he was with the Chargers. Let's see. Now you got Bill O'Brien in the building too. Hunter Henry stats. Let's see here. I think he got injured a year ago. No, he played in 14 ball games. He started 14, played in 17, had 500 yards and 60 catches. So you got 41 catches, excuse me, on a year where the quarterback play was terrible in New England. 12 yards a catch. You guys struggled covering a tight end with the New York Giants last year. Who covers these people that you guys are playing against? And by the way, so you got Bill O'Brien back in the building, and you got Belichick on the defensive side, and you got Sean Desai and Brian Johnson. Interesting. The Eagles are better. They're just not better coached. They're just not better coached. Hunter Henry's a bum. So is Morrow a bum. The Bears fired him. The Eagles gave him no signing bonus money. They know they have a problem now at the NovaCare Center. They're trying to put this kid, Christian somebody, in there, Ellis now. They know they have a problem. I guarantee you, before the start of the season, the regular season, Howie would have made a move for a linebacker, an experienced linebacker, to play on that. You don't have enough guys right now. So, out of curiosity, what do you need to see from Nick for you to consider him one of the better coaches in the NFL? Well, it's hard to put a manager of a team as one of the better coaches in the NFL. And what I mean by that is, how many people looked at Jimmy Johnson when he ran the Dallas Cowboys and said, Jimmy was one of the best coaches in the history of the National Football League because of what skill set? Do you know what Jimmy's skill set was? He was in complete control of hiring coaches and complete control of the personnel on the team. Jimmy was not a coach. He had no influence on play calling. He had no influence on the defense. He had no influence on any of that. So he had a role hiring the best assistant coaches he could hire, and he had complete control of the personnel. Everything that went through Dallas during that time went through Jimmy Johnson, not Jerry Jones. That's why they don't have the same success. Because if that was the case, they'd be duplicating what they did in the early reign of the Cowboys under Jerry Jones. They can't duplicate it. Why? Bob Eccles is not in the room, who worked with Jimmy. It was kind of like his gopher guy. Okay? All the personnel decisions went. How do you think they got Charles Haley there? They got Charles Haley there because Jimmy pulled the trigger. But he had a role. Nick's role is keeping things running smooth. I'm not saying that that's not important. But what's his role? Okay? Is he a play caller? Does he have influence on the offense? Probably some. But when Nick had complete control of the offense, he was 2-5. Okay? But if Nick keeps winning games, there has to be some value. What was their value with Doug Peterson when they fired him? So the Eagles fired 2 coaches out of 3 coaches. One coach went to 5 NFC title games, and another guy won a Super Bowl, and you blew him out. What was their value? They replaced him. And they continue, unlike Dallas. Think about it, Tone. The Eagles since 2000 have continued success with their current way of doing business. The Cowboys were under one way of doing business when they won all those games, and they've never had the success again. That means something's changed. The owner's not responsible for the Cowboys winning. The Cowboys owner is responsible for the Cowboys losing big games. So what's the value? You've never been able to replace Jimmy Johnson because you know why? Your organization doesn't have the culture the Eagles do. It doesn't matter if Andy Reid's in there, Chip Kelly's in there, or Doug Peterson or Nick Sirianni's in there. They win because they've won the way they do things. There's a culture in how they go about their business, how they look at players, how they draft players, how they hire coaches, how they look at quarterbacks. Everything has happened the same way pretty much, with some modifications since 2000. That's not the case in numerous places. That's why you could sustain coordinators losing or firing of a head coach. Doesn't matter really. You have a way of doing business. Nick's not any more important than what Andy was to the Eagles. Don't you see this? Holy shit, man. It's got to be evident to you. What's the value of Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City, you think? What was it? There's got to be value if Kansas City's winning Super Bowls and Bieniemy's the coordinator there. What was his value in Kansas City? I don't know. What was his value? Did Eric Bieniemy have a value in Kansas City? Yes or no? Well, are we under some sort of notion now that Matt Nagy being the offensive coordinator in Kansas City, that KC's going to fall off? Where would you think that? So when you say that about Sirianni and you go like this, his value is this. What's Eric Bieniemy's value? We won't know until this season passes if we are being fair. My problem with Eric Bieniemy going to DC, what impact is he going to have on that Commanders offense? I sure hope it looks good for him. Dude, they could replace Nick Sirianni any day, any night, and it won't matter. It won't matter. Nick didn't hire these coaches. Nick didn't pick these players. Nick didn't draft Jalen. It had nothing to do with him. They took the coordinator responsibilities away from Nick Sirianni to help him. You think Nick just gave it up? So you think Mike McCarthy, to get the Dallas Cowboy job when he initially got to Dallas, one of the parameters probably was, hey, you want the Cowboy job? Kellen Moore's our OC. Dak feels comfortable with Kellen Moore. You can either take the job or not. I'll take it. And that's how he got the job. Kellen Moore was already in the building. That was a Jerry Jones decision. Okay? It was a Jerry Jones decision. And I'll give you a little bit of insight on Shane Steichen. Well, when Howie Roseman contacted Frank Reich, when he was the head coach of the Colts, and asked for some advice. Hey, you think Steichen can handle the RPO? He goes, yeah. He did a really great job with Jacoby Brissett when Brissett was in Indianapolis. Yes. He's more that. You see, Nick is more of a Phillip Rivers guy. Nick worked great with Phillip Rivers. When Phillip Rivers was in Indianapolis, the offensive coordinator was who? It was Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni was the offensive coordinator for that style of play. Okay? There's a 50-50 chance you're wrong. There's a 50 chance you're right. We'll find out. Nick's maintained success despite losing Steichen. Steichen's not the guy that you care about. And both those guys, as far as I'm concerned. Again, remember something here, to go to tone. So here was Jonathan Gannon's way of fixing the Eagle defense last year. Hey, Howie, I need 2 new tackles. Here was Dan Quinn's way of fixing the Cowboy run defense when Mike Nolan was there previously. He schematically changed it. And when Dexter Lawrence got hurt, or what's his name, the defensive end for the Cowboys, ended up getting hurt, they fell into Michael Parsons putting his hand down in the dirt. They fell into that. They didn't realize he was that good a pass rusher. And all of a sudden, when he saw what he had, that he could put him in a 3-point stance or a 2-point stance, then he came up with more cosmetic looks and more ways of using Michael Parsons. I always thought dropping him in coverage hurts him. There's some guys that are really great and some guys that are just, hey, we're going to wait for you to make mistakes. That's what the umbrella defense is. They ran an umbrella defense in Philadelphia last year. That's why when you ran into those great quarterbacks with those open zones in the middle of the field with linebackers who couldn't cover even a year ago, they ate your lunch. And they have for 2 years. Every quarterback that you've played against that's worth the shit has a high percentage completion for a reason. The zones are wide open. Dak, I keep telling you, last year had his worst year. He had his greatest game in his career almost. 5 touchdowns, 80% completion percentage. Shit, man, he ate the Eagle number 2 defense up. You make it sound like DeMarcus Lawrence, thank you. Okay? Those zone defense, you're going to see a lot of that again. Because you don't have – do you guys understand why James Bradbury, besides the money, was let go in – and I think New York made a mistake letting Bradbury go. They didn't think he was a cover corner in a man coverage. Same with Slay. So what they did was they dropped these 2 guys back in zones. They're zone cover corners. They are not man cover corners. They show you that every game. They're going to wait for you. Because, look, last year, besides Aaron Rodgers, okay, and maybe Trevor Lawrence early, you got a young player. Most of those quarterbacks that you played against last year, they're going to make mistakes against you. Here we go. Joe Burrow update, finally. Joe Burrow will be out several weeks with a right calf strain. Zach Taylor can't give an exact timetable. That probably comes up to, I would say, I think it'll be sketchy if he makes the opener. I think he may be ready by week 3. Okay, at least it's not serious, right? But I wouldn't step on a football field until my contract was done. Let me wrap up here with the Patriots. I like tone score. 30-23, 30-25, something like that. I could see that's kind of what that is. 30-21, 30-25, 30-20. It's going to be in that conversation right there. You're not going to put up a ton of points on that defense. And they're going to run the ball right down your throat because they got the back to do it. They have the offensive line to do it. They don't have to have a 300-yard passing game to beat the Eagles. They can have 14-play drives against a defense that's not ready to play yet and won't be ready in week one. It's not your offense. Your offense will be probably ready to roll. Your defense take at least 8 weeks. And Belichick is going to run the ball right down your throat. Like every team has the last 2 years. And they got the back to do it. And they got the offensive line to do it. That's why, if you think you're here, and you know what you'll say? Well, here's what you do. Okay, well, they want to get in a 14-play drive with you, New England. And they want to make it a fourth quarter football game. Tone goes like this: Bengals open with the Browns. No Burrow, loss. Ravens, loss. Rams, win. Titans, win. If they can get out of those first 4 games 2-2, it might be Cardinals 3, that'd be 3-2. They'll lose that. If he loses 1-2, if he's lost for those first 6 games, they'll lose the Browns, they'll lose the Ravens, they'll win the Rams, they'll win the Titans, they'll win the Cardinals. 3-3, they won't have home field advantage. They won't be in the home field advantage argument, but they'll be in the playoff conversation if Burrow comes back and he's able to play. Let's say he misses those 6 weeks. Man, that would be devastating. No, still, he's not lost for the season. Okay? He's not lost for the season. Quan goes, Mac Jones. You lost to Tyler Heineke, dude. I'd be careful before you start talking about Mac. Beat Tyler Heineke and Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, the previous year, beat you too. Beat Hurts. He's got to win against Hurts. You know that? Okay? Hey, Quan, you lost to Tyler Heineke. See what JM says? They have an awful offense. Well, they have an awful scoring offense. You don't have a back in the room with him. Got tomato cans. Again, I like Swift, though. Oh, and Andy Dalton. You lost to Andy Dalton. And Andy Dalton. Damn. Andy Dalton, Tyler Heineke, you lost to. So here are the quarterbacks you lost to last year. Patrick Mahomes, okay, sure. Okay, Tyler Heineke and Andy Dalton. I don't know. You mean to tell me you couldn't beat Andy Dalton and Tyler Heineke? It's pretty funny, actually, if you think about it. Go get him, baby. Yeah, I can't wait to see game 1, baby. Yes, sir. Judah was ranked 3rd in sacks. They have a great defense. Offense was all over the joint last year because of that stupidity of a move by Belichick with the coordinator stuff and all that shit. Now they got a real coordinator in the room that's won a Super Bowl. A couple of them, actually. And plus he was his quarterback coach at Alabama, where they won a national title. So, yeah. I really like him a lot, too. Judah was ranked 3rd in sacks, and they're saying the Patriots have no pass rush. They're high. The other – hey, Tone, I think the other kid on the other side also had double digits, didn't he? I thought they had 2 guys with double-digit sacks. I thought there was another guy on the other side, too, that was a pretty good sack guy. They got a pretty good-looking group. And again, they're a little bit light and short, I think, in the secondary. But getting this kid, Christian Gonzalez. Patriots have an awful offense. What's your defense? You have awful linebackers. No, I can't do that. I don't know. I'm going to go with what Tone says. Before I even read Tone, we'll see what Nakobe does. He's not awful. I'm taking that back. He's not awful. Okay, we got to wait and see. Judah, 15.5 sacks. That kid, UCHE, 11.5. Wise Jr., 7.5. Damn. They got some pass rushers. Yes, sir, baby. They're going to line a guy up right over Cam Jurgens. How you doing? That's a great-looking pass rush. Yes, sir. Look at this. Juju's afraid? Afraid of what? He kicked your ass in the Super Bowl. 6 forced fumbles between them. Woo! 30-23. Did you say that, Tone? Tone, did you say 30-23? I'm with you. That's what that game looks like. That's what that game looks like. Yeah. Better get that defense ready, baby. Man, it's going to be a fun season. Man, I can't wait because that defense is like a green apple on a tree. Also had 30 tackles for losses between them as well. They just needed some offense, and they couldn't get it. They just couldn't get it going on, man. Eagles 31, Patriots 30. You ain't scoring 30 points like that against them. You ain't scoring 30 points against the Patriots. You 30-23. Yeah, I'll give you 30. I'll give you 30. I'll give you 30. I'm with Tone. I like the 30-23. Fans don't respect. Hey, Tone, you think Eagle fans respect Brady night? No. 38-14. So you think you're going to hold with that defense, an NFL offense, with no linebackers, to 14 points? Dude, you don't have the same group you did a year ago. Oh, baby. Oh. Please, let's get to September. Yes, sir. Let me say this to you. How many games do you think Nakobe Dean starts this year for the Eagles? Let me write it down. Patriots defense is good. Fans better stop playing. Yale goes hopefully 17. $20 games for Dean. Senor. That's good. Good for you. Sil said yesterday you mentioned Desai as a watchdog with Patricia. What was Vic to Jonathan Gannon? He was going to be the replacement, John. Did you not hear what he said and what they were doing? He was going to take the defensive coordinator's job in Philadelphia if it wasn't for the fiasco that went on with Gannon and the tampering, and that's how he ended up in Miami. Those were his words. And Fangio was being brought in because Gannon was going to get an NFL job. You know how we know that? Frank Wright was offered the offensive coordinator's job before he got the Panther job. And you know where we heard that? Right here. Frank came on and said it, that the Eagles had offered him the offensive coordinating job. Week later, Carolina hired him. They already knew that Shane Steichen was out too. The coordinators were supposed to be, if Frank doesn't get the Carolina job, Frank Reich and Vic Fangio. Those were your coordinators for 2023. Instead, you got training wheel guys. Tell me I'm wrong. Fangio even said he was going to take the Eagle job. Seals, how many games does Dean play? I don't want to be unfair. I don't want to be unfair. I shouldn't ask that question. I shouldn't ask that question. I want him to get a full opportunity to play. So I'm not going to answer that because it'd be a bullshit comment. And I don't want to just throw a bullshit comment out like that. So I'm not going to do it. I want him to have every opportunity to become the starting middle linebacker for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm not going to start by just saying negative shit about a guy just because I want to have a narrative look like I'm right here. I don't want to do that because that's not right. And I hate people who do that. And okay, Chris, and I jinx the kid, this and that. Sure. I'm not going to talk shit on someone just to talk shit on someone. That's not cool. So I'm going to take that question back. Okay. I'm going to, because it's not fair. And you know what? I'm more down on Jordan Davis than I am Nakobe. I'm being productive. So I can't, it's not fair. And for me just to sit here, start barking at somebody, why would I do that? What, to get clicks? That's clickbait shit. So I'm not doing that. I'd rather not. Okay? I'd rather not. Jesse goes, Sills, who's left at the linebacker to trade for? Glad you bring that up, Jess. Okay. Well, hey, Tone, can you do me a favor? Tell me who the first 6 games are for the Bucs. Who are the first 6 games for the Buccaneers? I'm not talking about Derek Barnett. Derek Barnett is a non-factor on the Philadelphia Eagle defense. He's a non-factor. Yeah, Loki, I'm not just going to, just so I can hear myself talk like many people on the air. I'm not going to talk shit on Nakobe Dean. I'm just not going to do it. Let's give the kid a chance. Shaq Barrett. 1 through 6. That's a good question. Because I think you can probably make this transition this way. Follow me here in how you could maybe get a linebacker. Vikings. Do you think the Buccaneers beat the Vikings? I don't. That's 0-1. You think they beat the Bears? That's 1-1. You think they beat the Eagles? Absolutely not. That's 1-2. You think they beat the Saints? I do not. That's 1-3. Do you think they beat the Lions? I do not. That's 1-4. Do you think they beat the Falcons? Let's just say yes. You're 2-4. Now the question is this: in the NFC South, where's that put you? Are you still in reach of potentially winning the NFC South at 2-4? And would you give up Devin White if you're the Eagles? Or if you're the Buccaneers, knowing full well you've got to resign him in the offseason. Plus, Howie has, $13 million in cap money right now? And by that time, week 6, you're going to know if Dean's the guy or not. If Nakobe Dean's the guy, you're not going to look, because to me, I think the Buccaneers will start unloading players like Mike Evans. I don't believe they'll let loose of the left tackle, but I think they'll let loose of some people on that defense. Shaq Barrett, maybe? Okay. Week 7, Bills, Texans. Okay, so let's just go further there. The Bills, they're losing that, so you're 2-5. The Texans, you're winning that, I'm assuming. You're 3-5. The Titans, you're probably losing that. You're 3-6. And the 49ers, you're 3-7 with 10 games. I would think you start dumping, because why? You're in salary cap hell. You need draft picks to retool the team. You've gave up a lot of commodity to get Brady down there. You put up a lot of money, and now you got to retool. You're going nowhere, really. You got Baker Mayfield. You really think Baker? And for me, if I'm the Bucs, I want to get into that draft pool next year where I could maybe get a quarterback. One of those 5 kids or 4 kids that they have. So do you go after a guy like White? You got $13 million. And if you get him, get this, even on a 1-year contract. Even on a 1-year contract. Right? You get him, you trade him at the end of the year. Draft day trade, something, I don't know, because you don't want to pay him. You don't just let him walk out the building March 17th. Maybe you move him for some draft picks, 3rd rounders. I don't know. But if you put a guy for, hey, would it be worth this to you? Would it be worth this? Think about this, Tone. If you call the Buccaneers up and the Buccaneers go, what are you giving us? Would you give up next year, if you win the Super Bowl, the 31st pick or the 32nd pick in the draft for Devin White that could put you over the top to win a Super Bowl? Would you give up the 32nd pick if you only had him for 10 games and the playoffs, and then he traded him before March 17th? And he played great. You might get another one for him. Would you do it? Because the linebackers you have right now are not good enough to win a Super Bowl. They're not good enough. That kid, you put Devin White on your football team, it's a game changer. You wouldn't put a game changer on your defense for a first round to win a Super Bowl and stop Mahomes. Well, you'd rather play and limp along with Jacoby and not put a game-changing captain of a Super Bowl champion team who's 25 years old. And maybe you restructure a contract like you did for Jalen, and you give this guy what he wants, but you have cap numbers that are beneficial to a 25-year-old linebacker who's a captain of a Super Bowl team who could be on your defense for the next 10 years. That's stupid thinking. I'd rather pay huge money for a linebacker that could solidify my defense with 2 guys in front who's an experienced green dot guy than a guy that I have to nipple feed for the next 10 weeks. What is your problem? So you'd rather put a guy on training wheels with the green dot than a guy who won a Super Bowl at 25 years old. You can't be any dumber. At any cost. Hey, to win a Super Bowl, it's not cheap. To repeat and get back, it's even more costly. The Eagles are smart at one thing. You know what that is? Being economically sound. You know that's I would rather give up a first-round pick than give up my salary. Here, what's more important to you? Your salary cap or draft picks? My salary cap. Because I can go into the market and find guys like I did a year ago. What you've done this year compared to a year ago, you're relying more on draft picks than veterans. And it's cheaper. It's cheaper. You went cheap in 2023. Even with signing the quarterback. You're a cheaper football team. What big money did you spend this year? Where? Let me know. The quarterback? Okay. Doesn't hit until 2024, but okay. Who? Did you spend a lot of money on Swift? No. You let the guy walk out the building for less money. He's 7. He's 3. Who else? Who'd you bring in that's big money? Well, you brought in a rookie on a rookie deal for your DT, so you exchanged a $20 million guy for a rookie on a rookie contract. Cheap. You brought in Burrow. You went cheap. You let Gardner Johnson go. You went cheap. Every guy you replaced from a year ago made less money today and less experienced. Bradbury deal. Yes. That's right, Kyle. Bradbury got a raise. Even Slade took a haircut. Lane redid his deal. The bulk of that money's next year and the year after. But they did give him a bonus. Yes. You spend a ton of money. You're $13 million under the cap. Last year, heading into the season, you were like $1 million. Brandon Graham took a pay cut. Could have got more money in Cleveland or in New York with the Jets. Brandon Graham didn't get a raise. Fletcher took a pay cut, $4 million. Last year he made 14. Now he's 10. Pay cut. What are you talking about here? Every guy you have in your defense that came back, took a pay cut, except Bradbury, and are making less money than the guys that you replaced them with. Costs a lot of money to have experience. That's why that team was more experienced last year and costs more. Last year's team cost you more. Shit, man. Hargrave was still making – you had 2 tackles last year in your – get this. Your 2 defensive tackles a year ago, one guy made 16 and the other guy made – you had $30 million tied up in your 2 defensive tackles. $30. Now you've got 10. About 13. You're about $13 million. Compared to 30. Think of that. $30 million in DTs last year. This year, 13. That's a $17 million pay cut between your starting tackles. What would it cost for White? Jess, does it matter? Does it matter? Hey, by the way, how many players do you think you are away from winning a Super Bowl? How many players away? Two? Ray, what are those 2 in your eyes? What are the 2 5? I don't think that. Tone says 2. JM says 0. Well, you couldn't win it last year. And you haven't beaten the guy twice. You have done nothing this offseason to show me you're going to be in a position to beat Patrick Mahomes. You've done nothing. Two, right, Jess? Tone says linebacker and safety. So, you got Budda Baker out there, and you have potentially Devin White, depending on what the Bucs do. And you want to give Nakobe a shot. Is that right, everyone? And you want to give Nakobe – I do too. You drafted him third. I mean, you spent a third-round draft choice on him. Let's give him a shot for sure. At least 6 games. And remember something. I like what Tone did because – and this is why I did it this way, Tone. I don't know if Budda gets moved. They just gave him a raise, but the Cardinals have done dumber things. It's just a dopey franchise. See what Tone did here? He wrote down the first 6. You see, then he wrote down 7 to 10. And I'm talking the Buccaneer schedule. What happens? The more losing you get. The more you panic for picks. So early on, White's value to the Bucs is high, and the Eagles won't have the leverage. But the more the season goes on, the more they'll be apt to move him. Now, trading deadline, too, would be a factor in the timing of the schedule. But still, you know, you want to get kind of as close to that trading deadline as possible so that you can maximize the Bucs' failures. It's not about maximizing your failures. It's maximizing the Bucs' failures because they'll be more desperate to move people for next year's April draft. The Bucs have to rebuild. I mean, they're old and expensive and not winning. 3 things you can't have. That's what the Rams are. But they push the chips in to win. You feel me? So, you know what? At the end of the day, if you're a Rams or Bucs fan, you're like, shit, I know, man. And you knew this was coming. If you're a Bucs and Rams fan, you knew this was coming. You knew you were going to go through more horrible losing than moments of winning. And you have to eat it. And you have to be cool with it. 3 years of shitty football for a Super Bowl is worth it in my eyes. Okay? Because at the end of the day, the organization's not going to lose their MO and how they operate. They're going to go back in again. I can't think the last time the Rams had a first-round pick. I don't remember that. I mean, Kevin Demoff and Les Snead, the people that run that organization for Stan Kroenke, I don't remember the last time they had a first-round pick. Totally worth it. Here, let me show you something with Niner guy, Niner all day. Here, think about this. Arizona Cardinals schedule 10. Commanders, Giants. They'll lose that Commander game. They'll lose that Giant game. They'll lose that Cowboy game. They'll lose that 49er game. They'll lose that Bengal game. They'll lose that Rams game. They'll lose the Seahawks. They could lose every one of those games. Cardinals. And they could be just dumping everything. Let me show you here, everyone. Tone, everyone. Let me show you here the problem you have. What the Buccaneers and the Rams did by pushing all their chips in to win Super Bowls was worth it. All the draft picks they gave up, all the money they spent. But what the Niners did by giving 3 first-round draft choices away to get Trey Lance, who's a stiff, that's a disaster. That is a complete, utter, structural front office failure. You gave up all that future. You basically were the movie Draft Day without getting your picks back. You surrendered your future and failed. Where the Bucs and the Rams, they won. They won Super Bowls. Niners were better off sending all those picks to Green Bay. What they've done is they gave, in theory, 3 years and the premium quarterback position away. The 49ers have set their franchise back at the quarterback position a decade. Sills acts like he knows it all. Tell me something I'm not saying is true. The Bucs and the Rams pushed their chips in and won Super Bowls. You pushed your chips in your future, your franchise for Trey Lance, and he blows. How is that? And you're trying to crow to me and tell me that Sam Darnold is going to be, this is what you're pitching me. You're pitching me Sam Darnold's the next Geno Smith. Shit, man. You're wishful thinking it, guy. Here's the difference between the 49ers and the Eagles. The 49ers are not Super Bowl contenders. They are not Super Bowl contenders. Because in critical moments, you got garbage and dog shit at quarterback. The Eagles have a kid who's rising. I don't know where you think you got a quarterback in that building. Shit, dude, I'll tell you this. The Eagles' backup quarterbacks of Ian Book and Marcus Mariota are better than any guy you have in that building, including the guy who started, 6 games? And, dude, I'll say this to you. If I'm hard on Jalen, excuse me, who's Brock Purdy again? Who's he? Some guy that filled in, and he's Jeff Hostetler 2.0. He's Jeff Hostetler. Way to build your franchise around. No, you gave up 3 first-round. Hey, Eagle guys, you gave up 3 first-round draft picks for Jeff Hostetler. Hour 3. Philly Godfather's going to join me, man. Holy shit, man. I'll tell you what, in San Francisco, you should go back to brie and cheese because you got a cheese noodle arm quarterback, whoever it is, who will start the 2023 for you. You got dog shit dudes in that room. Hour 3, Power Hour. Keep it here on the National Football Show.